For thousands of years, people have conducted trades of all kinds. The world is changing, but some things remain the same. Carrying on a business is not easy, but some Chinese have been carrying on long-established trades that have existed for centuries. This is a modern border port between China and Kazakhstan. Trade goods have been transported through this area for thousands of years. A tour bus en route from Kazakhstan to China arrives at the Kyrgyz Pass at 10:30 a.m. every day. Traveling in it are not ordinary tourists, but businessmen. They rarely miss a trip. They never arrive empty-handed. The commercial center is right across from the customs hall. The goods they bring with them are sold right away. But this is just the first step. Next to the commercial center is some drab-looking warehouses. These traders are preparing goods for the foreigners to take back with them.
我一天这一栋房子里面就可以出去7、8吨货物，鞋子呀、汽车配件什么都有，只要人能拎得动、能拎走的东西都有。
The goods here are ready to go. Goods from China are what draws these visitors. Each can carry about 30 kilograms of goods back to Kazakhstan per day. But even taking customs fees into account, they still turn a profit. It takes only one day for these people to deliver their goods to their buyers.
其实呢，我们还是按照原来的价格出。今天到了个可能15吨左右，在3、4天之内就出掉了啊。
The city of Kyrgyz was a stage on the ancient Silk Road. 1,500 years ago, businessmen carried silk and china from Chang'an to Dunhuang, through Kyrgyz to Kazakhstan, and far beyond to Istanbul and the borders of Europe. Thousands of years of trading has brought many different cultures together. Trade has probably always been the initial bridge between China and the wider world. More than half of the vans traveling on the Gorzago Viaduct are heading for Kyrgyz. The vans are carrying border traders like Sahati.
我们哈萨克是一个游牧民族，一年四季都把蒙古包拆下来到这儿这样流动的这样，所以我现在搞这个物流也算是一种巧合，我也是搞流动的这种，从国内弄到口岸，再弄到国外。
The viaduct between Urumqi and Kyrgyz has dramatically shortened the time it takes to transport goods. By early morning, the goods are on the move. Sometimes the vans themselves are the goods in question, headed for the Kazakh market. Over 100,000 tons worth are traded every day. Nectarines are the fruit shipped in the largest quantities through Kyrgyz. But for most Central Asian countries, daily necessities are in greater demand. To become a better boss, Sahati is learning the workers' local dialect.
装碗发钱，
吃肉喝酒，
吃肉喝酒，
吃白肉喝白酒，快点，快，抓紧时间。
中啊，中不中？
中。
Some goods are freighted further afield by rail. With a market to get to, it seems that the goods move themselves. After the morning rush, the warehouses quieten down.
我们本来说后个是6楼房，
这房子现在我太高了。
05年时候700多块钱那时候，1平方，现在3000多。
那时候来的时候好吗？
好，我也那时候没买。
10年后我们2个中国物流的老大。
好。
All of Biaika's work is done in 3 hours each day. For the rest of the time, it's just a waiting game.
我们会想，货能不能安全到对方的库房？比如说以前领包靠后无意中丢掉，那个货物值好几万，我们就要赔，反正挺担心的。
Sahati worries about customs clearance, so he goes to Kazakhstan every month to sort it out in person.
他们在什么场合穿什么衣服都非常有讲究，跟别人谈生意必须是西装革履，衬衣呀、裤子都是熨好，鞋子一定要擦亮，显示你对别人的尊重。
Sahati was born on the grasslands. Family meals are still taken in traditional nomad style.
哈族人一直都是马背上的民族，到农村定居才30年的历史。定居以后才知道什么是市场，才知道什么是做生意。
Business is reaching every corner of this globalized world at an unparalleled speed. Along China's long land borders, more and more border trade cities have sprung up as the mainland economy has boomed. The night market at Gorgas is where the drivers from Kazakhstan can relax. But tonight, there's no rest for Biaika, who is still anxiously awaiting news of the goods sent off today. At midnight, Biaika returns home.
Hello， 亲爱的朋友们，大家晚上好。守护在电话机的这一头，依然是你们的老朋友比克，电台主播。
Biaika runs an internet radio station from home on his mobile phone.
说出你的故事，聊出我们的人生，让我们一起感受。
A busy businessman has become a radio host.
说出来的。
This alternative identity helps distract Biaika from the worries of his day job. Three hours on, it's time for the early morning call to prayer at the local mosque, just as it has been for the last 230 years. It's one item of stability in a fast-changing world. The historic city of Taizhou lies on the lower reaches of the Yangtze River in Jiangsu, eastern China. 700 years ago, Marco Polo described Taizhou in his travel notes, calling it a small and happy city. The earliest manifestation of this happiness arrives each day in the form of breakfast.
马上这位啊，神才高啊！ 葱瓜，2刀葱的1床。
Xu Jiming often breakfasts at this restaurant. This morning, he intends to eat his fill. Xu Jiming is about to undergo a period of enforced abstinence.
这个我们要让自己好好的吃一顿，以后呢，在自杀的过程当中就吃素了。
Xu is a celebrated wood carver. His workshop has received an order from Japan, which requires them to avoid meat and alcohol while working on the carvings.
那个完全是形式主义，没得用。
For the sake of his workshop, Xu accepts the client's strictures. During the Ming and Qing dynasties, Taizhou was famous for its salt industry, and its townsfolk were wealthy. Businesses developed fast to meet their demands. But the market for traditional craftsmanship is shrinking. Today, some only sell historical or cultural relics. Few can make a living in today's competitive business world. Shuai Chunyan prays before the altar in his home every morning. He prays, among other things, for the continuing survival of his family business. It was founded in 1813, when the market for religious imagery and statuary was strong. He was the 5th generation, but as time went on, market conditions became less and less favorable.
我学这个雕刻的时候，实际上就是雕刻最没生意的时候。有一个弟弟80多岁了，他说我干了一辈子了，勉强糊口。你现在学这个东西干嘛？没缺陷。但是我们家祖传就是雕刻，现在不学的话，就没有机会了，没人传了。
After many difficult years, Shuai finally saw his opportunity. China's period of reform and opening up produced new wealth, but it also produced a revival of interest in religion and spirituality. Temples, which had been closed for decades, began to reopen. The pressures of modern living also drove many to seek spiritual solace. The market for the Shuai family business revived, but today it's not just locally based, but international.
日本人佛像他穿的少，体现了这个肌肉吧。我还是喜欢我们中国的那个佛像嘛，它比较含蓄一点。
印度的那个佛像上面那个发揪啊，高高的，那个腰那个地方太细了，嘴角一点笑容也没有，不像我们中国的这些菩萨，你看都慈善的很。
The carvers focus on their work, while Mr. Shuai deals with the complex cross-cultural negotiations.
これがなければね、本当に美しいんですけれどもね。ちょっとこれですね。これツルツルしすぎてるね。もう少し手作りの状況が見えるといいんですけれどもね。
开始我们认为他过分挑剔。 心里很恼火，就压制这个火，然后呢，面上呢还客客气气的。
Whenever the workshop finishes a statue, they hold a special ceremony to welcome the Buddha, irrespective of the carving's final destination. It's a Taizhou tradition that has continued for more than 500 years. This Buddha made for Japan is the 5th overseas order for the workshop this year. The business will continue as long as hand from the faithful is there. The overseas customers are mostly from Southeast and East Asia. They all have their particular requirements.
像香港人啊。
你不搞，那客户有这样的要求，那怎么办？
那是你。
咱们做这个单子吧，也不容易。他这个单子也挺大的，我们配合一下人家，你这个务工方面，我来补你工资，好不好？
这种的工资不足，没得那个做饭，哪一个这个没办法讲香港人的，哪有那个做饭啊？你点饮料后来就接看我老板就是了。
돈은 지게 했어요. 당신이 사원에 어려우면 건 당신의 일이고 고객이 만족할 때까지 수정해야 돼요. 만족할 때까지 수정하세요.
作为我们做手艺人来说是有极限的，我也跟他聊天的。我按照你说的做，我做不了，所以说我不做了。
It's midsummer and the Dragon Boat Festival arrives. Shu the sculptor goes back to his hometown. The familiar scenes ease his temper. Back at the workshop, Shuai persuades the other carvers to adapt to the Korean customers' requirements and finish the statue. The world is moving on. Some stand fast against the flow. Others are more flexible. It's the spirit of adventure that animates the jade business. A gamble on whether the dull-looking rock will turn out to contain valuable jadeite. Mandalay is the economic hub of central Myanmar. Its streets still abound with monks and temples, but alongside the otherworldly aspirations of Buddhism, another world of roller coaster commerce exists. This stone has come from the north of the county, where the best jadeite in the world is found. The jadeite is found deep inside rocks, like this one, but whether any one particular rock contains the precious interior is a matter of chance. The trade is called gambling on stones. Ma Lorgung is one such gambler from China. Stone gambling is very dramatic. No one can tell if a rock is a good one or not until it's cut open. Fortunes are made or lives ruined in an instant.
在艺术圈子里面，大起大落都很正常的事，没有一人是天生的专家，常胜将军。老的口诀是10度90数，实际上这100度95的数，凭着自己的一些主观意向来检验的话，你会败得一塌糊涂。
This time, Mr. Ma is a winner. Ma is from China's Yunnan province, where pioneering locals have developed the jadeite trade into a global business. Tangchong is in deepest Yunnan, in the southwest of China. It's the last stop on the ancient southern Silk Road. Nearby, the village of Hashun is home to many overseas Chinese. Over the past many centuries, nearly every man born here has gone abroad to make his living. A century ago, the villagers built this pavilion to protect the wives left behind from the sun and rain while they were washing their clothes. It's not unusual for Hashun men to spend half of their lives away from home.
发大财的嘛也有，但是少。发财的也有，有些人嘛死了，死在缅甸多这样。
The motivation for many is the precious jade found in Myanmar. Many made their first fortunes from it. The Wan Mansion is the former home of a famous local jade dynasty. The Western items in the courtyard show the prosperity the family once enjoyed. Those glory days are long gone. The house is now the domain of a solitary descendant. Merchant families come and go, but the jade business goes on forever. Ma Wudang was born into one such jade family. Back in the time of his grandfather, people had to travel across Myanmar by foot. Less than 1/10 of them made it, and this was just the first step in their jade adventure. Mandalay is the second largest city in Myanmar and was the last royal capital. The jade market is the largest in the world and is the busiest place in the city. December is the most pleasant month in terms of the weather, but even then, the temperature can still reach 30 degrees Celsius. People gather here in the heat and the noise for just one thing: jade. Jade is among the rarest minerals in the earth. More than 90% of its deposits can be found in Myanmar, but the Burmese themselves have a preference for gold, where the Chinese have a love of jade that goes back millennia. The jade trade between China and Myanmar started in the 16th century. During the Ming and early Qing dynasties, sea trade was forbidden. The only way to reach Myanmar was an arduous overland route through mountains and jungles. The jadeite rocks were carried by elephants from the mines to Hipakant, and then by horse teams to Tongchong. Many come to Myanmar to have easy access to precious raw materials. Half of the traders in the market are Chinese. Ma sits at a colleague's booth. These fixed booths belong to the buyers. Nowadays, however, top-quality jade Some friends from Tongchong invite Ma for tea. They have all suffered the same rigors of life in the jungle around the jade mines.
开始做生意的时候，完全就是跟那个牛鸡做斗争了，全身发冷，冷得不得了，然后又发热，很多人死掉了，就这样。
The area was controlled for many years by anti-government rebels. Armed conflict was frequent.
到了河边，就听见枪炮就响了，老缅兵呀、那个叛军呀都打死在路上，相当害怕。
枪林弹雨就这样子，还有那个地雷，还有随时那个山兵的话，如果有一点不对的话，很多人就是拿出去这样，就杀掉了。
李少北。
But the people of Tongchong say they were born to trade in jade.
不怕风险，不怕死，就是这样子，这样闯出来的。
20 kilometers west of Mandalay, there's a cemetery for the Yunnanese. These were adventurers who died seeking their fortunes in Myanmar. Most were from Tongchong. For hundreds of years, the desire to escape poverty spurred generations of people to leave their homes and gamble their futures. The winners returned in glory, to build elaborate houses in their hometowns to display their success. Agu is a Burmese merchant, well known in the market. He owns a factory in Hipakant and a good supply of jade.
要看透这块神秘的石头，实际上很难。还有经验的人，大体可以30%的成功的比例。在聪明的人，这块一度是一块难玩的魔法。
太远，太远，这个通透，就是一口气不少。
缅甸这边基本上是漫天要价，价格呢都会交出10倍甚至更高。成功与否，不得靠一双慧眼。
Nobody knows where the market will go next, but the attitude is one of live and let live, as who can say who will have the whip hand tomorrow.
现在把这些东西看得很平淡了，就是一块石头而已，这涨与不涨，已经不是那么重要了。
The Irrawaddy River is the largest river in Myanmar. All the capital cities of its former rulers are located along its banks. The river that is mother to the Burmese people also carries the dreams of the Chinese jade merchants, yesterday, today, and in days yet to come. As usual, the Shanghai subway is crowded at 7 in the morning. 63-year-old Peter Chan is on his way to work. His commute takes him about 1.5 hours. Taking the subway train is the only way he can be sure of arriving on time.
我们到香港的时候，跟老外做生意，约好了时间，他来的时候，你差1分钟他也不高兴。不知道唯一一个做法就是早到。
South Maoming Street is home to many tailoring shops. Chan's is at one end of the street. 60 years ago, his father started a tailoring business in Hong Kong, making men's suits. Chan entered the industry at 15. From an apprentice to a master, he spent his life as a tailor.
Follow the curve of the body, so the lace is smooth on you. Sure. Very good. Perfect fit.
Alex Chan is Peter's son. He starts work 2 hours after his father, after the rush hour peak has died down.
裁缝是非常刻板的，如果差了半公分，心里面不自在。那对于我来说，我是非常不拘小节的人，而且我也是一个日夜颠倒的人。
要收了吧，
Yeah, he lost weight.
Yeah,
6 kg. 6 kg.
Yeah.
OK， 给他看一下，他瘦了很多。
Now, is the jacket meant to be a little bit trim or a little bit
It meant to be a little
straight?
trim.
It is, okay. Better not put on any weight.
Made-to-measure suits are cut to fit their customers' bodies exactly. As they measure and then fit the clothes to their customers, they come to know them very well, physically and often psychologically too.
I guess a lot of time at the Maoming store? No?
Not quite. I spend more time actually here.
他其实一直都想我像他这样子的，我的个性是跟他是完全是相反的，就是陆地的生物跟海里面的生物一样。
In his early 20s, Alex tried to stay away from his father. He opened a store selling chilled drinks, worked as a radio DJ, and then in advertising.
他们对我的期望可能也是很大，不过我有我自己的人生，我希望我去经历我自己的人生。
Shanghai's long links with the outside world are well known. The many foreigners that once lived in the concession area created a market for Western tailoring. Peter Chan's father was once a member of the famous Red Gang tailors from Ningbo. On the eve of China's liberation, they decamped to Hong Kong along with their foreign clients. In 2002, Peter Chan returned to Shanghai and opened 2 shops to expand his business from Hong Kong.
红包裁缝的精神就是客人去哪里，我们就跟去哪里，因为那里有市场。
Shanghai today is a lucrative market for Chan's tailoring business. The city is highly international and has a rich source of customers.
Do you feel comfortable with the jacket?
Yeah, I do. It's almost like I don't even have it on.
Okay. Your figure seems better than last time I made the jacket.
yeah. Well, I've been working out.
You could be a model now.
Yeah. Thank you. Coming to WW & Chan, the suits are made perfectly for me. So if the way my body is shaped, the suits fall perfectly. You come in and you say hi, and you do your fitting, and you come out with a great looking product. It's addictive. It just makes me want to come back over and over and buy more and more. So.
The birth of a suit is not easy. It requires German needles and scissors, Japanese chalk and silk thread, and most importantly, Chinese skills and years of experience. All these make up the soul of tailoring. This traditional business is in a much more direct relationship with its customers than the modern ready-to-wear industry.
我们很坚持啊，裁缝对我们来讲是一个职业。职业的话呢是一生的，我们投进去啊，师傅为工人，他一投进来就准备付出他一生。最开心的时候就是做出来了，那好像一个是刚出生的孩子，要拿出去养。一把衣服穿在客人的一个 moment， 那一刻那个是最开心的。
In this room are the records of every customer since the business opened. Chan writes down the measurements and design of each suit for each and every individual client. W.W. Chan & Sons aim to provide a service for life. In 2007, Alex reconsidered his future and returned to his father's business.
流的血是父母的，那我就必须要进入我的那个使命里面。我扫地开始做起，作为一个学徒、一个师生去了解，最后就开始可以接待客户了。我其实是一个非常内向的人，我不喜欢和人交流，这个是最后的一个考验。
Alex struggled with himself every day. What encouraged him to persist was a determination not to give up after all the hardships he had already encountered.
我会去透过爱好去接触到很多不同行业的人，那我就当做我在做销售一样去锻炼。我受到人家烦，其实我自己也觉得很不好意思。 可是没办法，我自己对着镜子练没有用，那不如对着人练，一遍一遍的去复习。我是这个一下一下的这样练到今天。Right. Position, a bit more classic, more traditional. So it really.
Now there is just one person that Alex still has difficulty in dealing with.
一件衣服一穿上，好的衣服穿上，它是贴住紧的，现在是往前的，就自然跟身体结合起来。更重要的，那领子不是平板的一块，是用人手很多针，把它做成一个弧形的状态，其他部分都是到位的。
他又是父亲，又是我的上司，我是以一个面对老板的心情来去跟他交流的居多，因为我希望我在公事上能够给到他一份认可感。然后我再以一个作为一个儿子的心情去面对他。
After working in the shop for 7 years, Alex wants to bring in some changes of his own. He plans to make a new brochure. He feels the current one is too technical and not user-friendly. And he wants to use modern photography to give this traditional business a new face.
我们先试一张看一下哈。好的，好，是哪个小技术？我看一下。
他可能觉得这个不是这个行内应该有的事情，对于他来说是无法理喻的。不过他没有阻止我。
Sanbao Village, Jingdezhen. Every morning, Li Wenying walks down her tiled pathway to cook breakfast for her guests from far away. Sanbao is famous for its ceramic workshops. The locals have renovated and restored old houses in the village, combining modern and traditional elements. These have drawn international porcelain merchants to come to stay in Jingdezhen. Ms. Li arranges their daily activities, including hands-on experience of Chinese folk art.
从他们到中国的那一刻，你就得操心。有些人他没拿过筷子，我不给他们勺子和叉子。他为什么来中国？他就是对中国的这种文化感兴趣。我说你筷子拿好了，你的毛笔字也会写得好。所以2个星期下来就很简单，大家都会了。
Christine is from the UK and has been Lee's business partner for 10 years.
他组织人，因为他在英国是蛮有名气的一个陶艺家，有说服力。
They have very different styles, but 10 years of working together has made them close friends.
Difficult woman, no boyfriend. I got 2 husbands. I got yours.
Lee receives over 100 ceramists from dozens of countries here. Jingdezhen is like a mecca for them. Jingdezhen is China's great and historic porcelain capital. The making and selling of porcelain is to be found everywhere. It seems as though little else goes on in this magnet to the world's ceramophiles. Dunhuang works in a quiet village in the northeast of the city. He started painting porcelain when he was 15. Addicted to antique porcelain, he opened a workshop 10 years ago and now produces porcelain items according to traditional techniques.
就我一辈子就只做一件事，我就做陶瓷，因为我那个很小就开始进入这样的状态，那么一层一层的加深，你就完全进入这种状态。
Like Donghua, others also went into the state-owned porcelain factories as teenagers and learned their skills under the strict tutelage of the old masters.
这个磨刀，他是师傅教，要你自己做。那真是大冬天的，在外面干的时候是一件一件衣服脱，干热了脱一件，再干热了又脱一件，最后光着膀子，不觉得冷。学磨刀学了3个月以后，师傅才让你上手。
Decades of practice gives the artists free expression through their works. Gong is popular with collectors, and would-be buyers have to place their orders 2 years in advance. But Gong isn't willing to expand the scale of his production.
我几乎每一个瓷器都要通过我的手，这个工作量我做不了。我觉得那个品质可能会下降。我从来不定位自己是个生意人，我们是一个手艺人，手艺做得好，生意自然会来。我就这样想的。
Gong's purity of spirit expresses why ceramists from all across the world are drawn to Jingdezhen.
我会组织很多景德镇的传统的手工工艺，比方说书画、毛笔制作，就现场做，这种东西能够展现给他们的很难看得到。现在，特别是今天的中国。
After everything is prepared and ready, it's time to fire the porcelain in the kiln. Mr. Hu is a famous kiln master and the last master of the wood-fired kiln. He is the person who controls the delicate firing process. Donghua uses a wood-fired kiln, like those used in the Ming Dynasty. The fuel wood is pine. The temperature by the kiln reaches the limit humans can bear, but the porcelain inside undergoes a magical transformation. For hundreds of years, fires from countless kilns like this one lit up the skies above Jingdezhen. Li Wenying and Christine planned their activities for the coming year.
我把行程做好，然后他来进行修正。他是艺术家的一个代表，代表他们想了解什么。我们去村庄的深处，然后一些艺术家工作室，一些窑址。
Jingdezhen is one of, if not, the greatest world center for ceramics. 1800 years ago, the people of the region built kilns and started to produce porcelain. The Chung River allowed it to be exported to Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and finally to Europe. It was to be collected by European nobles. It's hard not to find traces of the history of ceramics in the city. Many of the old houses are built with kiln bricks. The glaze on their walls gives away their origins. In his free time, Donghua likes to visit the old factory where it all started for him.
哦，这现在在修了哈。
找点是找得到啊。OK，
这是早期的方法啊。
搞料子小笔一下就来卷了。问起来了。
包括我们的父辈，也有很多其他的师傅，他也会知道你这个年龄段的人是一下坐不住的，他会叫你，哎，仔力过来，你给我去买包烟。他实际上是给我机会活动。现在回想起来，确实我感谢他们。
We do this. No, red.
If I get an ink on this, I'll kill you.
No. Because your parts has some brush work.
Sure.
That's why.
明白. So what are you doing? What am I copying, Wenyin?
Oh, I'm doing, then you're copying.
Yes.
莲
是
你的名字
是 I love China. China is my life, and without it, I don't exist. For me, that's something that Sambal brings. It's a step between the contemporary and, say, the archaeology. So for me, it's a very important point, a bridge between the old and the new.
Your poem.
The moon rises above the mountain, and we sleep peacefully beneath its shadow when Wenying's not around.
Okay?
Sure.
The Qingming Festival is coming. Following long-standing tradition, the craftsmen of Jingdezhen build a special kiln to offer prayers that their ancient handicraft can continue to be inherited and enjoyed by future generations. Fast-paced modern life always focuses on the future. But the future does not exist, and only by knowing our past can we find our way to it.
我希望眼界打开，这世界在进步，我们也在进步。我们如果不再进步的话，我们只会被世界的历史遗忘的。
Peter and Alex Chan are cutting their cloth to suit their needs, while Sahati engages in another year of international business trips. Traditions are not just inherited, but also reinvented for each generation in turn.
我们是合伙人，但是没有钱。
The spirit of our ancestors lives on in those trades, passed down from generation to generation. An eternal flame, like the kilns of Jingdezhen. Living in these restless times, people have never been so busy. Nobody wants to be left behind.
你做了之后你会有成就感，是吧？你要有那种成就感。
The Chinese people are in a race to find their way to success. Please join us for part 4 of A Biz Date with the World.